There's a good chance that somewhere in the way that you carry yourself today, the way you stay calm when something goes wrong, a phrase you catch yourself saying, the music you reach for, or the way you size up a problem instead of panicking, there's a good chance that there's a little bit of your dad in there. And maybe you've never thought about it that way. Most of us probably don't. I think that we usually think more about what our moms gave us and the lessons that she taught us because they were usually more obvious. But the things our dad taught us tend to sit quietly underneath everything, like the foundation of a house that you stopped noticing years ago. And here's something I'll say right up front because I think it should be said. Your dad did not have to be a great dad or even a good one for this to be true. Mine wasn't a good dad in a lot of ways, but I still walked away with a handful of lessons that I still use every single day. So today, on Father's Day, I want to dig some of those lessons back up. Not to feel sentimental about it, but because I think they are good life lessons that you can actually pick back up and use this week and every week for that matter. If that sounds good to you, stay with me. Hey loves, welcome back to the Purfect Sunday Podcast for women who want to grow as people without pretending they don't care how they show up. I'm not an expert. I'm just a woman who's been paying attention and figuring things out along the way. Today, because it's Father's Day, we are talking about the things our dads taught us about being a woman in this world, and the handful of those lessons that are genuinely worth carrying forward. And I think you'll be surprised by how useful some of these are. But first, this week's Sunday obsession. So I have been on a mission for the perfect body oil, and I am happy to say that my search is over since I found the Golden Hour Glow Oil from the brand Brunel. The oil absorbs quickly and leaves your skin feeling soft and silky and hydrated and just overall radiant. And it leaves the perfect subtle shimmer for a sun-kissed glow, and it has this light floral scent of jasmine and creamy sandalwood. Some of the other body oils that I found had too strong of a scent, or the glitter and sparkle was just turned up too high. So this body oil really is just the perfect combination of everything that I was looking for. And I am absolutely obsessed. I've been wearing it every single day this week since it arrived, and I'm planning on being outside all summer, just hydrated, glowing, and smelling good. All right, a quick note before we go on, because I know Father's Day isn't simple for everyone. For some of you, your dad was your hero and someone that you got to look up to. Maybe you still get to look up to him. And for others, it's more complicated. Maybe he wasn't around. Maybe the relationship was difficult. Maybe he's gone now. And today is just a reminder of your loss. And some of you were shaped by a different man entirely. Maybe it was a grandfather, an uncle, or a stepdad, a coach, or even a friend's father who showed up in your life as this masculine influence. Wherever you may fall in this, I believe that this episode is still going to be relatable, because here's what I've learned. The lessons don't actually require a perfect dad. Some of the strongest, most put together women that I know learned exactly who they wanted to be from a father who got a lot of it wrong. And you're allowed to hold both the hard truth about who he was and the good he gave you. So take what fits, leave what doesn't, and let's find the good in it together. And as always, my disclaimer, I am not a therapist or a life coach. Everything in this episode is just what I've observed, learned, and what has worked for me. I hope it's helpful to you too, but please, like I said, take what's useful and leave the rest. All right, let's get into it. Before we get into these life lessons, let me tell you a little bit about my own dad and what got me thinking about this. Honestly, I don't feel like I can say I had a complicated relationship with my dad. I think he was a good person, but he had his struggles, for sure, real ones. And I think he tried to be a good person, but he definitely was not the father that I needed him to be in most of the ways that counted. I liked my dad. He was generally good-natured, high energy, and fun to be around. But I also knew that he was unreliable and you couldn't count on him for much. If you grew up with a dad like that, then you know it's possible to love someone and still at the same time be honest about who they are. He cared very much about how he showed up. He believed that you put yourself together before you walked out the door, that the way you presented yourself is a kind of self-respect. And he drilled it into me to never half-ass anything. If you're going to do a thing, you do it right, all the way, and to the best of your ability. And then there are the lessons that I learned from the other side of him, from his struggles and his mistakes. The ones he wasn't trying to teach me, but that turned out to be just as important. Watching where he fell short taught me a lot about the kind of person, and especially the kind of parent that I wanted to be, and how I want to show up for my own kids, how I want to be remembered by them and remembered by the people that I love. And sometimes the people who hurt us end up teaching us exactly who we don't want to become. And I suppose that's its own kind of gift in a way, even when it doesn't feel like one. But here's the thing I've made my peace with. Even a father who got a lot wrong can hand you something worth keeping. And when I really sit and think about it, there are a few things from my dad that are woven into who I am today. And however the lessons were learned, I'm grateful for them. And I believe the best way to honor what someone taught you is to keep that lesson with you and to continue using it. In my experience, the lessons from our moms usually came from connection, talking, comforting, more of the emotional stuff. But the lessons from our dads, for a lot of us, involved less talking. They were something that we observed. Your standards, how you carry yourself, how you finish a job, whether your word means anything, or how to stand strong under pressure without falling apart. And here's why that matters for you now. So much of what drains women is feeling scattered and half present, half dressed, half finished, feeling like we have to shrink ourselves to fit in or settle for the bare minimum just to feel loved. The biggest thing I think we can take from watching our fathers, the good and the bad, is to let it set the standard for our own lives. The things that they got right become the baseline for what we accept, and the things they got wrong become the boundaries that we hold, and they are now the things that we refuse to let back into our lives. Because even the lessons that were hard learned are useful. They help us build a happier, healthier life as an adult, and they help us end the cycle of toxic behavior before it reaches the next generation. That's the thread that's running through today's lessons. Not to be like a man, just hold a standard for yourself. Be a woman who follows through on herself, most of all. And that's a quiet, powerful kind of confidence. And a lot of us got our first taste of that from our dads. So life lesson number 1 is to always show up looking your best. My dad believed you put yourself together before you face the world, not for anyone else, but as a way of respecting yourself and the day in front of you. He didn't have a nice wardrobe. We were incredibly poor, but his clothes were always ironed and his shoes were polished before he went out. Because how you show up on the outside sets the tone for how you carry yourself on the inside. This is the whole look good, feel good, do good idea, and there's truth in it. When you've taken a few extra minutes to put yourself together, you stand a little bit taller, you take yourself more seriously, and the day tends to take you more seriously too. It's not vanity, it's a signal to yourself, first and foremost, that you're worth the effort. And when you hold that belief for yourself, the rest of the world follows. Lesson number 2 is never half-ass anything. This was practically my dad's motto. If you're going to do something, you do it properly and always to the best of your ability. It really didn't matter if it was cutting wood, cleaning the house, the mindset applied to everything. Don't do it halfway and don't try to cut corners. And the important part in that was doing the best to your ability. As you get older and gain more experience, your ability increases, but the standard to always do your best remains. The reason why I think this lesson is important is because we live in a world of half-finished everything. The started project, the halfway cleaned house, the reply we meant to send but never did, and all those loose half-done threads quietly drain you. There's a specific kind of self-respect that comes from doing one thing all the way. It tells your brain, I'm someone who finishes. I'm someone who does things well. I always show up ready to do my best, and I am someone who can continue to improve. Lesson number 3 is to keep your word, especially the one that you give yourself. This is one of those lessons I learned by watching what my dad did wrong. My dad made a lot of promises, big ones and small ones, and I do believe that he was coming from a good place when he made them, but he very rarely followed through. And I remember being little and believing every single thing that he told me. I would get excited, I'd tell my friends, and then I would start counting down the days to whatever it was he promised. And over the years, I slowly realized those things were never actually going to happen. The promises just got broken again and again, and all that excitement turned to disappointment. From that, I learned the value of keeping your word by feeling exactly what it costs when someone doesn't. So now I am very careful. I don't commit to something and then back out of it. And I try really hard not to overpromise things that I know I can't deliver on. This matters most to me when it comes to my kids because I want them to always be able to trust what I say to them. And I want them to grow up understanding that your word is your honor, that when you say you'll do something, you do it. And here's the other piece of that. The first promise most of us break is one that we make to ourselves. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, you trust yourself a little bit more. And every time you break one, you trust yourself a little bit less. Keeping your word to the people you love and to yourself is how self-respect is actually built. Lesson number 4 is you can figure out almost anything yourself. This is another one that I learned the hard way. I figured out young that I really couldn't count on my dad or my mom for help. So I accepted pretty early on that if something needed doing, it was on me to figure it out. And honestly, I think it would have been really nice to have supportive parents there to help. Someone to go to when scared, someone to fall back on when I needed it. That just wasn't my reality. But in the end, I am grateful for what that built in me because now I don't sit around waiting for someone to rescue me because I have decades of proof that I can figure things out on my own. The reason why I think this is such an important lesson to constantly be reminding myself of is because self-reliance is quiet confidence and it compounds. Every single time that you solve something yourself, you hand your own brain a little bit more evidence that you can be trusted. And a woman who trusts herself makes bigger, braver decisions in every other part of her life. She leaves the bad situation, she takes the risks, she doesn't stay stuck waiting on someone else to make everything okay. Lesson number 5 is to lead with kindness. My dad was really good with people. He could talk to anyone, total strangers, the person in line behind us. It really didn't matter. And as a pretty shy child, I used to watch him do it all the time, kind of just in awe. I would study him and try to figure out what it was that always had people reacting to him in such a positive way. And the thing that I noticed every time was that he led with warmth. He approached people with kindness first. At his memorial, people got up and shared their memories of him, and the same thread ran through almost every single one. How he always talked to people with kindness and respect. How he was the first to volunteer. How he was always checking on his friends to see if they needed anything. And more than anything else that day, the lesson that landed was people remember kindness. They remember the way that you made them feel. This lesson is a constant reminder that it's easy to think the big, impressive things are what people will hold on to, what you accomplished, what you looked like, what you had. But when it really counts, the thing that stays with people is how you treated them. Kindness isn't weakness and it isn't small. It's the thing that you will be remembered for. And the beautiful part is it costs you nothing and it tends to come right back to you. Life lesson number 6 is keep a tidy, clean home. My dad believed in keeping a clean house. There were 6 of us kids in a 500 square foot trailer, barely any space at all. So things got messy very, very fast. Daily cleaning wasn't optional and everything always had to be put back in its place. Otherwise, we would have been just absolutely buried. He was always doing something, washing dishes, sweeping the floor, or outside raking the yard. Honestly, as a kid, it could be very, very annoying to constantly be having to straighten things up. But I'm so grateful that he instilled that in me at a very young age because it never left me. And it turns out that he was onto something. Your home is the backdrop to your whole life, and it's talking to you all day, whether you notice it or not. And psychology actually backs this up. Studies have linked cluttered, messy spaces to higher levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, especially in women. Researchers have also found that clutter competes for your attention and makes it harder to focus, and that a tidy environment is tied to better sleep, less stress, and more mental clarity. A clean space literally helps settle your nervous system and quiet your mind. It's not about being perfect or having a home that looks like it belongs in a magazine. It's that taking care of your space is one of the most direct ways of taking care of yourself. And lastly, lesson number 7. Don't take yourself too seriously. Dad humor is its own genre. The groan-worthy jokes, the refusing to be embarrassed, the ability to laugh at themselves. But I think that underneath the corniness is something real and something valuable. There is a lightness, a refusal to let life be heavy all the time. My dad had a good sense of humor and a generally positive attitude about life, and he was always sure that things were going to work out. And the reason why I think this is so important for women is because as women, we carry so much. There's the mental load, the constant worrying about everyone around us, the lists that never end, the ability to laugh at yourself or at the chaos around us, or at the toddler that's downstairs, apparently auditioning for a marching band right now. It's not a small thing. It's how you keep the weight from crushing the joy. And that quiet faith that things will work out, that's not naive. It is a choice. Believing it tends to keep you moving, and the woman who keeps moving is usually the one things actually do work out for. When something goes sideways this week, and it will, because it's life, try to find the funny in it before you find the stress. You can try relating it to someone as a story instead of a complaint, because at the end of the day, lightness is a choice, and it is something that we can practice. All right, that is the 7. 7 lessons I feel are important to keep with me for life. And if you've noticed, none of them required my dad to have been perfect. And yours didn't have to be either. You can learn to keep your word from a dad who kept his beautifully, or from one who didn't and left you to feel the costs of it. Either way, the lesson is yours now. And that's really the heart of all of this. Whether an experience was good or bad, it mostly comes down to how we choose to frame it. The good things can show us what we want to carry forward, and the hard things can show us what we never want to repeat. Either way, if we let them, both can hand us something that's incredibly valuable. A lesson that helps us build a better, more beautiful life, and the pain isn't wasted when you pull the lesson out of it. If your dad is still here and you're on good terms, do one small thing today that you will be glad you did. Ask him one real question that you've never asked. What was he like at a certain age? What was a lesson that his father taught him? Then actually listen and maybe even write it down. If I had the chance to go back and talk to my dad again, I would want to know so much more about his childhood and what life was like for him as a young man, as a father. I think that those questions would give me so much more insight into the person that he was. Our parents' stories disappear so much faster than we ever expect. And unfortunately, once they're gone, these questions will never be answered and will always remain a mystery. I want to talk to those of us whose dads are gone or have a very complicated relationship, because call your dad just isn't an option. So here's what I do instead. I write down the lessons that I'm keeping, the good ones, even the ones that I had to dig deep for. And I use these as a reminder and even as a kind of quiet thank you. Or you can pass the lesson on. You can teach it to someone younger than you, be it a child of your own or perhaps a younger sibling. This keeps the memory and the lesson alive, which is its own kind of honoring. And if today is just hard, that's allowed too. Do something kind for yourself today and just let that be enough. Moving on to your weekly challenge. Here's the challenge for this week if you're up to it. Sit and think for a few minutes about the lessons or habits that you learned from your dad and how they've positively impacted your life. The things he got right, and even the things that you've had to learn the hard way. Whatever you can pull something good from. And if it feels right, write them down. There's something about seeing them on paper that makes you appreciate them in a whole new way. And it is also a beautiful thing that you could look back on. The 3 things that I would like for you to take into your week before I let you go is 1, the lessons from your dad are probably already running quietly underneath your life. The way you show up, the way you finish things, the way that you keep your word. You don't have to learn them from scratch. You just have to notice them and then turn the volume up. 2, you do not need to have had a perfect dad to walk away with something good. Mine wasn't, and I still kept so many of his lessons that shaped my whole adult life. You're allowed to be honest about who he was and grateful for the good he gave you. Take the good, leave the rest. That applies to dads too. And 3, pick one lesson and use it this week. The best way to honor what someone taught you isn't to feel sentimental about it once a year. It's to keep it alive in the way that you live. So happy Father's Day to all the dads and father figures out there, and to all of you women who became strong because of them, or in spite of them. If you enjoy this episode, please share it with another woman who you think would enjoy it too. And if you haven't, please follow the show, leave a 5-star rating and a kind review. It helps the show grow, and I truly, truly appreciate it. And come find me over on Instagram at Monty_Wheeler. Say hi, ask any questions, or leave a comment. I always love hearing from you. Thank you for spending your Sunday with me. I'll talk to you next week. Love you.